Welcome to Home Business TV. Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Kevin and your host. As home-based entrepreneurs, we often have to become guerrilla fighters in our businesses. This leads to adoptive, innovative ways to succeed in business. One innovative way is to flip the model in the industry you want to break into. Flip that model and break the chains that hold you back from succeeding in your targeted market. A case in point is today's podcast guest, Erik Reid, one of the two brains behind the company Virtustant. Erik Reid, please say hello, and where are you calling in from?
Thanks for the introduction, Richard. I'm calling in from Wellington, Florida, about 30 minutes west of Palm Beach. Happy to be here.
Thanks. Well, it sounds like a warmer, sunnier place than I'm in. So thanks for taking the time to connect in. Erik Reid, along with his partner, Kevin Wright, run Virtustant, a company that's connecting businesses with top remote talent in regions like Latin America. What's most intriguing is how they're flipping on its head traditional hiring models to launch and grow Virtustant. Erik Reid, let's get to know you better. What first caught my attention is we're both University of Connecticut, UConn grads. Small
Yep,
world.
definitely. I graduated in 19 with a degree in economics and proceeded to not use my degree. Instead, I started a company.
Well, most important is it's still a party school.
Yes, it is. They keep winning.
They keep winning. Well, cool. Before we get launch in, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Definitely. So I started the company Virtustant back in 2021. Honestly, COVID happened a year before, so I had very limited actual work experience, but I was working in real estate finance, and I had always known I wanted to start a company, and I felt like I needed to just take that leap. It was a great time to do so. I was so early in my career. And so I started an e-commerce company, and I was doing drop shipping, and I needed to hire someone. I was talking to my now brother-in-law about this, and he had started a company that taught Mandarin to people in the Philippines, and he had just hired a virtual assistant. And so we came up with this idea of Virtustant, of hiring individuals to work with American companies. And so we started that in May 2021, and it's grown to what it is now. It's been very blessed couple of years.
Oh, cool. Well, like what then was the inspiration for launching Virtustant?
So
What?
I needed a virtual assistant because there was a lot of tasks I need to get done. However, I saw a lot of companies that advertised for it, but they seemed incredibly expensive, and I didn't know if I could trust them. So then Kevin, my partner, said, "Hey, I have one. I found you can go to the Philippines, you can get someone there much cheaper than you think." And then we were just sitting there at his kitchen table for about 3 hours, and the idea was, if other people are able to do this and they seem untrustworthy, they seem too expensive, why can't we do this but at a much better price? And then we started Virtustant that day.
Well, talk about how you flip the model in your industry to to gain a foothold in the hiring world.
Definitely. So, there's a lot of different ways to do staffing. When I was in college, I actually worked as an accountant through a very large staffing company, and I was a temp, right? They hire someone, or they have me, I'm contracted through them, and they place me with a company. And then they take a margin on top. Then there's the direct placement fees, there's virtual assistant companies, there's BPO companies, there's many different kinds. And um, what we do is we place specifically very similar to that temp model where we find contractors, they're contracted through us, and we place them with our clients. And the thing that we do that's different and a little bit more unique than other companies is we try to focus on finding the most quality and talented individuals. So we do a lot of different testing, whether it's cognitive testing, personality testing, and we're hyper focused on finding not just who's the right fit for the role, but the role that's the right fit for the person. And so we found that this model works really well. And I think really focusing on that quality and testing for those skill sets and for their cognitive ability is something that almost no other company does. We even ended up starting another company in mid 2024 that actually does the testing. We also utilize AI to evaluate candidates and give them a rating to see how good of a fit they would be with a specific
So
book.
what I think what you using some of the new modern tools that are available to, I guess, better filter the potential hirees, but then you also look at it from the other side to see what would be a good fit for the person that's going to be hired.
Yes, it's 100% about how well you can filter people. So we get 80,000 applicants a month. We have all these people that come through and apply to us. And the truth is, you could place someone in a position, but if that's not the right position for them, whether it's their skill sets or they're not going to be happy there, they're not going to be a good fit. So we take a very, very customizable, customer-centric focus when we're dealing with our clients. We try to be flexible enough where we can adhere to what their actual needs are. And then we're incredibly aggressive on the filtering. Because the idea is if you can filter for the best talent that truly wants to be there, they're going to stay there for a long time.
Yeah, if you can use these tools, I mean, just the lost effort, time, and aggravation of a bad hire. And you hear numbers, something like a bad hire can cost $50,000, $100,000 to a company, plus all the lost time. That seemed to be would be invaluable.
100%. And we staff people from all over the world. Most of our companies that we work with are US companies. So we staff a lot of individuals from Latin America. It can be up to 70% cheaper than staffing for Americans. There's also a misconception a lot of people think about international talent of them being lower quality. And that's just not the truth. You can find individuals from all over the world from different countries that are incredibly intelligent and very high skill level. It's just about being able to do that. And you have to kind of have the tentacles as a
Well, I
company to be
imagine
able to
with you're dealing
find
with
those
a different
individuals.
culture and language, it brings some challenges to how you do your filtering to choose the best candidate.
It can, but that's why if you're an American company, you go to Latin America, they speak English, they speak Spanish. The culture is incredibly similar. The time zones are very similar.
Well, I've learned by firsthand experience what you're talking about. I mean, yes, the talent overseas and connecting in, it's as good. It's seamless, and sometimes not only is it the price, but it's the availability of the talent drives you to going overseas. So it's an industry I think it will be experiencing a lot of growth and changes. But a little bit in your flip the model journey, what were some of the tougher challenges you had to overcome, in launching your business? So I imagine, developing the ways to filter is one of the challenges. What are some of the other challenges you had in developing your company?
Marketing's always a big one. Um, when we started, we didn't have much money. I mean, I was 24, my partner was 21. We spent a little bit on ads. We got lucky. We got some really good clients right away. However, we developed other marketing strategies very early on that was able to kind of keep us pushing forward until we were able to create those more complex strategies that propelled us to where we are now.
Well, now that we're on the marketing, is there some social media you use or ways to connect in with potential talent and, do word of mouth? If you can figure out how to do social media right, it has a definite cost advantage.
100%. And we do social media. We get applicants in from our website, job boards, social media, everywhere now. An interesting way that we got clients in the beginning was we would post in Facebook groups for people looking to hire virtual assistants. And then we started Facebook groups for that. And we would just filter questions off, are you a VA or are you looking to hire a VA? And then we'd also ask for their phone number and email. And then if they were looking to hire, we'd call them. I would just cold call them. And we would get a lot of clients that way.
In cold calling, you didn't actually like pick up the phone, I guess. It was more just reaching out person to person on that
I
social
called
media
them.
platform.
Like Facebook, email, I'll call them. To me, it didn't matter. It was whatever would
Right.
get us in the clients, right?
Sure. Well, in flipping this hiring model, you must have had to go head to head with other hiring companies in the market, and how did that work out?
It's a very competitive field, and I think when we want to talk about flipping the market, I think one of the things that we do that I'm not sure if other people do is we try to take a scientific approach to a very subjective field. Hiring in its own right is subjective. It's not 2 + 2 = 4. You're dealing with human beings. And so what we try to do is make it as scientific as possible, the entire workflow from what the customer wants to the applicants themselves, how we get them, how we filter them. We try to remove the guessing and the subjectivity in it as much as possible and make it as scientific as possible.
And kind of getting into these competitive advantages you're talking about, how did you, is there anything else, any other advantages you leveraged to flip how business is done in the hiring industry?
Yeah, well, we developed a company called IntelliScreen. It's a testing platform, but it's much more than just that. We can test personality, specific skills, cognitive ability, but we also use it as in our workflow within Virtustant as an evaluator. So we have AI interviewers. We have something called an AI score, and what it does is it rates the candidate's profile in combination for what the customer wants based off of the job description. And when you combine it, it tells you all of list of pros and cons of an individual, and then a score of how accurate the AI thinks they will be at that job based off of the data that was input. And we've seen that be the most popular tool on IntelliScreen that IntelliScreen's customers use, but also within our workflow for Virtustant is something that is immensely beneficial.
So you're integrating in artificial intelligence into how, evaluations of different candidates.
100%.
I'm just I like to just think about like, okay, what would be interesting in a different type of business? So with in the hiring, do you find that the how good of a fit is most based on cognitive skills or, say the personality skills of how well they'll fit in with a company? Just I'm just curious. I would imagine you need to get a good fit with the person just with their different, their personality skills. I would just wonder how if you have any comments about how that stacks up with cognitive abilities for a job, or just a
Definitely.
straight up combination of both.
Well, you do need a combination of both. You can, if you hire someone and they do not have the right culture fit, the personality fit for it, you can run into a lot of problems. However, it does depend on what you're hiring for, but especially for anything technical or advanced decision making, one's cognitive ability is incredibly critical to the performance of the job. Now, when you look at it case by case, there's a lot more fluctuation in it, right? But we have hundreds of people that get hired a year. And when we look at it statistically, the cognitive ability can have a huge impact based off performance. So you'll see generally, statistically, it's interesting, across all the roles that we place for, the individuals in the highest percentage for cognitive ability get fired the least amount and quit at the highest rate, right? They quit at the highest rate because they get fired much less. And the number one reason people in general get fired is performance reasons. So there is a correlation. Now, you don't want to necessarily take someone who's Albert Einstein and put them in an incredibly simple job, right?
Right.
Because they're not going to be happy with that position. So you then have to take into consideration everything else of that candidate's profile. What are their dreams? Like, what do they want? Where do they want to work? What are their growth potentials in their career? And when you take all of that in and you don't think of it of, oh, I just like this person, but you try to break it down into a scientific formula, you get a much more accurate hire.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that how well somebody works in a job or how well they like it, it's not so much correlated with money. It's more correlated with, what kind of satisfaction are you getting, what kind of growth, what kind of potential. I guess I've heard money can be a disqualifier if the salary isn't there, but at the end of the day, you've got to keep that smart, motivated person motivated.
100%. Money's number two. Number one is if they like their job, the people that they work with, etc. You
Hmm.
see a lot of people that would take less money for a better work life. It's incredibly important.
Oh, being able to have some kind of a remote capability, vice having to report into an office, things like that?
That's very beneficial. Listen, I have 50 people that internally that work for my companies. Everyone's remote. But whether they're remote or not, it's having an environment where people want to come to work, that want to be
Right.
there, want to collaborate with their teammates is so important. If you have a toxic workplace environment, it could even just be one manager that's really aggressive and doesn't have communication skills. It can ruin entire departments or companies. Communication is so important for success in business.
I imagine it's even getting more important as everybody gets decentralized and they might not see each other every day. The
Yep.
age-old
Especially when you're
communication.
remote.
And I
If
think
you
it's,
if you have a remote, I was
what's
gonna say,
that?
if you have a remote business, if you have a remote business, get a tool like Slack, Microsoft Teams, something like that, where you can communicate with people and actually communicate with them. It's one of the biggest issues I see companies that are transitioning from fully in office to a hybrid or fully remote workplace.
Yeah.
They struggle with that.
Hey, we're still people designed to live out of caves. And we need
True.
that interaction we used to have that's disappeared with cell phones. Well, we talked a little bit about this earlier with marketing and guerrilla marketing. And are there any other marketing tactics that you use that have contributed to your success?
We use everything. We use ads, we use email marketing. Email marketing actually, interesting enough, the Facebook marketing that I mentioned before, we did that for about the first year, year and a half. The problem was it didn't lead to very high quality clients. So we had more turnover rate with our customers due to a lot of times they just didn't have the money. Um, what we did though is I had Kevin basically, like you just said, went into a cave and figured out email marketing.
He found his inner
Um,
caveman.
Yes, he did. Like it was like a whole month where he just disappeared. I was like, Kevin, you need to figure this out. I'll handle the recruitment. I'll handle the sales. You go figure this out. He did an amazing job. Came out a month later. He didn't shave for a full month, had the beard, and had an amazing marketing
Are you
plan,
still
and it
brothers-in-law?
worked. Yes, we when we started, I was dating and engaged. But I got married in November. He actually married us. And he's officially my brother-in-law. Um, but yeah, email marketing was wonderful for us. It was something that really catapulted us, and I think it 3x'd us in 1 year alone as being the main driver.
Yeah. Well, it's something you got to think about each day is marketing, and another thing each day, and we've talked about it a little bit already, is artificial intelligence, and you you're integrating that into how you evaluate clients. Is there any other ways that you use artificial intelligence that have proven beneficial?
Yeah, there's a lot of just simple ways like creating job descriptions 3 years ago was a lot more difficult, especially getting them from our clients. We don't even need you to create a job description for us anymore. Give us one. We just based off of the video, the discovery call we have, we can just create it off of that. So something as simple as that has made us a lot more efficient. There are so many different ways to integrate it into your company, and every industry is different. One thing that we are having internally now, and we are actually placing with a lot of our clients, are systems in AI centric roles. So you hire an individual, very smart usually. They don't necessarily need to have a significant amount of experience, but someone who is focused on AI and integrating it within your company, setting up automations with AI, and making the entire workflow of your business and all your departments significantly more efficient.
That's interesting. Okay, so it's something you got to start integrating across the board and bringing people in that may not even know that much about that industry that they're going into, but having an AI background to just start looking at things.
AI and systems background, if you can automate, most businesses can automate a lot more than they think.
Right. Yeah, I've got to be constantly looking at that myself. I don't know where AI is taking us, whether we're going off of a cliff or we're all going to soar high, but it's a world shaker. And so it sounds like you're jumping ahead on integrating that in. Well, talk about future. What does the future hold for you and your company, Virtustant?
Well, so we're integrating IntelliScreen fully into our workflow, and it's its own business at this point. Um, we look at the future, and it's very interesting. I want to stay as flexible as possible. However, we do understand that the world is evolving. So many companies are moving remote and need our services for that. However, one of the next steps we're going to take is also doing consulting for companies, especially on the IT side. We see a lot of individuals who are incredible entrepreneurs and business owners, but either they don't have the time to do it themselves and learn it, or they don't have the time to manage someone to do it. And so we've seen a lot of customers come to us and ask, can you build our systems for us, or can you help guide us in this sense? Even if it's just simply auditing what they currently have. And so this year it's a push that we're doing, not because it was our idea, but because our customers came to us asking for it.
Well, I mean that's just piggybacking onto a classic way of growing your business is diversifying through your core business, and then that leads because of your referrals and your relationships, that then leads to new related businesses and a
100%.
lot of potential.
Definitely, definitely.
Well, Erik, any advice for a podcast listener of what they should do tomorrow to start flipping the model in his or her business?
Just try things. I've tried so many different things that did not work out, and a lot that have. I think one problem a lot of people have is they're scared to take a leap, or they're scared to fail. Everyone fails at things every day, and that's okay. It's okay to fail. You learn from your failures and you learn from your success. So the one advice I would say is to just try.
Yeah, I mean, piggyback on that is just get out of your comfort zone, which I don't, I looking at things more and more like that, getting out of your comfort zone and familiar with the new challenge.
I completely agree. One of our mottos, and we've had this motto for a long time. Sir Dave Bransfield, he was the Olympic coach for the British cycling team. His motto is just improve 1% a day. And if you can just improve really small aspects, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but 1% a day, and that's your mindset, you're going to have exponential growth because you're going to start improving in ways you never knew possible. And that's something that I try to push to my team. And it's hard to consistently try to do that every day, but every day, every week, you should try to innovate. You should try to make it better. And even if you just improve tenfold, there's something else that's weak that you can improve on, right? And just having that mindset and being consistent with that, I think has been very beneficial for
Yeah,
us.
that's so important to put it out that way. It sounds simple, but if we don't think about something like that and focus, we'll end up opening our email and getting distracted and losing the entire day on distractions and not do something important like focus on a 1% improvement. You got to make it part of your mindset.
100%. And listen, if you have that day where it's just not a great day for you, you failed at being efficient, okay, move on. You have tomorrow, you have later tonight. It's not that big of a deal.
There's always mañana. Well, Erik, we've reached the end of
Exactly.
today's podcast journey and learning about your fascinating entrepreneur journey. Are there any other points you'd like to share?
I think that I think that more people should start a business. And I think that you need to do it and go into it and understand, hey, it might not work, but starting small businesses is what made America amazing. And I want to see more people do it.
Good point. And it's the bedrock of the economy. Good way to end. And thanks for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Richard. I appreciate it.
To learn more about Erik Reid and his company, Virtustant, please visit virtustant.com. That's Virtustant. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Virtustant.com.
We made it with a word generator.
Well, at least I guessed its pronunciation. That's a good word. You don't forget it now. Or
Yep.
visit our podcast website for more information on guests. Thanks for joining us today on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on our website, homebusinessmag.com. Subscribe to our newsletter for more information. Visit homebusinessmag.com or the homebusinessexpo.com. I'm Richard Katminderson saying, anchors away. We'll talk with you soon. Until then, make it a great flip your business model day. Thank you for watching Home Business TV.